So my focus for the past couple months in Netrunner has been on Anarch and HB. Just recently, I don't know why really, but I decided that I wanted to try something new. So I switched over to Criminal and Jinteki, two factions that I'm not quite familiar with, and not the most comfortable with. And I guess part of it was just to, one, understand how to play against them when I do, and two, just kind of challenge myself a little bit. So I'm going to start with the runner side that I've been playing. The ID that I found, I guess, to be the most intriguing when I looked at what was available for Criminal. If you can remember back to the last deck building video, I played Ian Sterling first over Andromeda and Gabe and anyone else that was there. And so I kind of did that because, one, he was looked at as being a weaker ID, and two, I didn't want to play what everybody else was playing. So I kind of decided to just test the waters a bit with that. Today, actually, we're going to be looking at a Leela Patel deck. Now, looking at Leela, at first glance, the first time I read her card, I think when it was spoiled on the FFG website, I read it, and maybe it was because I didn't fully understand it, but I thought that it was terrible. And I think the reason why is because I kind of had this idea in my head that her ability only pops off when I steal an agenda, and two, I was only thinking of ice. So looking at her ability here, she has 0 link, obviously Leela Patel out of Criminal. Whenever an agenda is scored or stolen, add 1 unresed card to HQ. So again, I thought that that meant like only ice. I wasn't thinking properly. I was thinking only ice. This only works for ice, and it only works when I steal an agenda. And for me to steal an agenda, I'm probably gonna end up rezzing a bunch of ice to do it. So this ability sucks. And it wasn't until after doing the Warhammer podcast last week, we were just talking about Netrunner cards, and my buddy John brought it up and talked about it, and then from then I was like, wow, this is amazing, and I really want to explore this card some more. So that's what we're going to be doing today, is Leela Patel, the trained pragmatist. Again, her ability is whenever an agenda is scored or stolen, add 1 unresed card to HQ. She has a minimum deck size of 45 and 15 influence to play with. So I don't know too much about what people have been doing with Leela Patel in the meta. I only kind of know what my first thought was in building a Leela deck, and I guess, yeah, so what my first thought was in building a Leela deck, and I guess the kind of direction that I would want to take her, oops, I'm trying to snap this in here, and the direction that I'd want to take a building a Leela deck. So for me, I thought what would be most effective using her, because of the 15 influence and how powerful her ability could be. I'm looking at a central only breaker suite. So we can start with that. Just going over the breakers that Criminal has available to them. So, and I'm not the best with Netrunner DB yet. I always forget what all these things mean. So here we go. So here are the programs that they have. Criminal has 3 breakers available to them that are central breakers only. The first one is Alias, which is a 1 strength sentry breaker. It costs 2 credits to boost the strength by 3 and 1 credit to break a sentry routine. And as you can see at the bottom, it says Alias cannot be used on ice protecting a remote server. So go ahead and toss 3 of those. The next one is Breach. This is the Fractor. So 2 strength, 2 credits, breaks up to 3 barrier subroutines, so very strong against Eli. 2 credits also gives it +4 strength. Again, it cannot be used on ice protecting a remote. So 3 of those. And then the last one is Passport, which is the code gate breaker. Costs 1 to bring it in, has 2 strength, 1 credit to break a code gate subroutine, 2 credits for +2 strength, and can only be used on centrals. So that is the breaker suite that I have been thinking to use. The reason why I've decided to do it this way is because of her ability 1. So unless the corp finds the time and the resources to stack up a whole bunch of ice to protect the remote server, chances are that if I dig R&D or HQ and I pop an agenda, I'm going to be sending the unres ice in remotes back to her hand, or his or her hand, and then I can use things like inside job and other shenanigans to get into that server without them being able to, or needing to res any ice in the server. And so it kind of opens them up that way, I think. And I'll get into how I'm going to spend the influence, I guess, later on, but first I'll focus on the criminal cards. So playing criminal, obviously you're going to want to switch over to the events. Where the hell are the events? The events, there we go. And at the very top, as you would imagine, account siphon. Gonna toss 3 of those in. This is because the central breakers are very expensive, as you can see. There aren't many times where you're not gonna need to boost one of them to get through, and all of them cost at least 2 credits to boost, which kind of sucks. And because things like passport start at 2, if you were to run into, I don't know, Inazuma, for example, which has 5 strength, then you're gonna need to boost passport twice, so $4 just to get to 6 strength, and then another 2 credits to break the subroutines. So this is a deck that requires a lot of money, and account siphon is definitely gonna work in helping you get that money. Again, when the corp scores an agenda, you can pop an ice back to their hand to open up the siphons for you. When you're playing account siphon, obviously you're going to want to have, if I can pop over the neutrals, you're gonna want to have same old thing so that you can get potentially 6 of them off in a game. So same old things here. Toss 3 of those in and go back over to the criminal cards. The next card, actually I should have stayed over in the neutrals. The next card that I'm throwing in is Dirty Laundry. Again, for the same reason, you need money with this deck. Dirty Laundry is going to get you money. It's going to get you running. And in the event that you do need to trash stuff, like if you run into an NEH deck or a Jinteki deck similar to mine, where you need to be trashing, it's just going to help to keep you afloat. So back over to the events. We got Dirty Laundry, and we'll do 3 for now. And yeah, they're there. Okay. So back to the criminal cards, hopefully, for the next, damn it. There we go. So keeping in with the criminal cards and the criminal events, the next one that's going to be very important in this deck is emergency shutdown. And the reason why that's important, obviously, is because if you make a successful run on HQ, then you're able to de-res cards, and de-res cards are the only cards that you can trigger Leela's ability on. So you're gonna want to have that opportunity to bounce back ice in remote, de-res it, then bounce it back, or de-res ice anywhere really and bounce it back to your opponent's hand. So that is emergency shutdown. Let's put 2 in for now. I usually try to stick with 2s in the beginning just to see where my numbers are at the end, and then either adjust up to 3 or cut back from there. So 2 emergency shutdowns. Obviously inside job, and everyone knows what inside job does. Bypass the first piece of ice encounter during a run. Gonna want 3 of those easily. Oh yeah, and sure gamble. I always forget to put sure gamble in decks when I make them online. Then I jump into Octagon, and I'm just digging the whole game like, where the heck are my sure gambles? Why can't I find any? Only to realize that I don't have any. So sure gamble, everyone knows what that does. That's money. The next thing is just going down the list in order, I guess. Legwork. Start with 2 again. Legwork lets you access 2 additional cards out of HQ when you make a successful run on HQ. Again, this is because you're just trying to see as many agendas as you can as quickly as you can, so that you can keep triggering her ability off. Legwork is a great card to do so because if you're constantly able to hit those account siphons, your opponent's going to be too poor to even put an agenda down in a remote and try to score it out. They'll know that they don't have enough money to even res the ice in the remote, so it won't matter that you only have central only breakers, so they'll tend to hold them in their hand. And legwork will definitely make them, or keep them on their heels anyways, in terms of how many cards they're able to really hold back. Agendas are really able to hold back, sorry. So that's legwork. And then this is where it starts to get interesting. I've tried working it over in my mind a bunch of times on what other cards would be important to play as events. So this is where we're going to start using the first bit of influence. Like I said, multiple access is very important. You need to be able to dig and find these agendas, keep your opponent on their heels, keep triggering off Leela's ability, making them have to put the same cards down over and over again. So Maker's Eye is another card that you want to have in this deck. Again, Maker's Eye and same old thing has that immediate synergy. So does legwork, so does account siphon. So you're just able to keep recycling and getting that event recursion. So Maker's Eye is important. Again, leaving it at 2 just to see where our influence lies. While talking about the influence, might as well go with the other ideas that I have for influence. And this deck is strictly Shaper influence. So the next Shaper card that we're tossing in is, you could probably guess it, is a piece of hardware. Which one is hardware? There we go. Is a piece of hardware, and it is the R&D interface right here. Toss 2 of those in. Again, if you can't find Maker's Eye, because this deck doesn't really have too much draw in it, you just want to find anything that you can get from multiple access. And if you're able to get these out and then Maker's Eye, then kudos to you. So whenever you access cards from R&D, access 1 additional card, just 2 of those. And the last bit of influence is used on a draw card, pro-con. Toss 3 of those in. That's 14 influence. Okay. So pro-con, you gain a credit and draw a card. Cost a click to do it. Again, there's not that much draw in this deck, and money is very important to this deck. So while you're jigging to find those icebreaker pieces, at least make money while you're doing it. You can get your R&D interfaces out, and whatever have you. And we need 1 influence left, and for that 1 influence, this is a card that comes in very handy, especially in this type of deck, and that is Notoriety. Unfortunately, when you play Notoriety, it doesn't count as scoring or stealing an agenda, whatever, so you can't trigger Leela's ability on it. But typically this is what you would use for your 7th point. So if you steal 3 2-pointers and you're stuck at 6, you just throw down a Notoriety for the win. And because you have central only breakers, it shouldn't be too difficult to do. Again, for those of you that may not be familiar with this card, play only if you made a successful run on R&D, HQ, and archives this turn. Add Notoriety to your score area as an agenda with worth 1 agenda point. So pretty self-explanatory. Get that last point with Notoriety. Important to note that you do not have enough clicks to same old thing in Notoriety, because you do need to make 3 runs and then play Notoriety as your 4th click. So if you draw it early, it kind of sucks, because you're gonna want to feel like you need to hold on to it. Excuse me. You feel like you need to hold on to it for that late game. You could, if you want, score it out early, but to give yourself a 6th card and also to couple with Leela's amazing ability, we have this awesome piece of hardware which is called Logos, and obviously 3 of those are going in. It's the console that we're going to play. It gives you +1 memory. It also increases your hand size by 1, so you can hold on to 6 cards. Whenever the corpse scores an agenda, you may search your stack for a card and add it to your grip. Shuffle your stack. This synergy here between Leela and Logos is unreal. This is probably like one of the most popular consoles to play with Leela. And like I said, when I went and decided to build a deck, I made sure not to look at what anyone else was doing first. Just kind of went off and did my own thing. So if you think about it, you're gonna get that +1 memory. So you're gonna have enough to play a full breaker suite as well as if I flip over back to the programs, excuse me. If I flip over back to the programs, one that we forgot to throw in is Sneak Door Beta. There we go. And Sneak Door is just, you make a run on archives. If it's successful, treat it as a run on HQ. So going back to logos now, which is right here. Yeah, so going back to logos, the synergy between these two cards is fantastic, between Leela and logos, because now you're bumping a card back when your opponent scores, so you get to bump any card that you want back to their hand. Secondly, you get to search your deck for any card you want. You don't have to show it to the corp. You add it to your hand, and then you continue playing. So this really sets you up nicely for things like Account Siphon. You can grab your inside job if you need it, or the whatever breaker that you're missing. There's just endless possibilities with this card. I've even had a situation where I was at 6 points, my opponent was struggling, whatever, scored their agenda, and I just used it to grab notoriety. The next turn, I did Sneak Door to get into HQ because they locked it down. Then I ran R&D because there's like 2 ice on it, got through easily, hit archives, nothing on it, and then played notoriety. So this is just a very good card, a very powerful card to work with Leela, because you are able to do 2 things at once anytime that your opponent scores. Unfortunately, it doesn't work when you score. It would be pretty strong if you got to score and steal an agenda and search your deck at the same time. So just keep that in mind. But what's most important here is that it increases your hand size by 1. So if you do draw notoriety early, then at least you can hold on to it, or at least I try to. For as long as I can. At some points you will have to abandon it, obviously, but like I said, I do try to hold on to it for as long as I can. Next, I've done a lot of experimenting with a couple different cards to fill these last 4 slots. I've worked with Unscheduled Maintenance, which I thought would have been great, but it's really unnecessary. Every time I drew it, I'd never played it. Unscheduled Maintenance is a current, costs 1 credit. The corp cannot install more than 1 piece of ice each turn. I find, excuse me, the reason why I thought it would be good is because, say I steal agenda, 2 of them or whatever, bump 2 unres cards back, the corp's probably not going to play both of them down the next turn anyways, so this card just kind of gets wasted. And if you're holding on to it just to bump other currents out of the game, currents aren't very prominent at the moment, and so you're able to just use your multiple access, your legworks, your R&D interfaces, your maker's eyes, whatever have you, steal agendas and bump the currents out anyways. So I ended up tossing that out, 1 for that reason, and 2 because I was finding in situations where I wasn't able to hit that early Account Siphon, then I was very, very poor. So instead of playing that those 2 events, sorry, and also Express Deliveries is the other card that I had in, which Express Deliveries were very handy. They did come in very useful, but I still feel like they're not all that necessary. So the card that I replaced all of those with is Daily Casts, just to keep that money coming in. Like I said, I'm so bad. I forget what these symbols mean every time. Daily Casts, where are you? Oh, it's over here. Connections. Yeah. So Daily Casts, place 8 credits on Daily Casts when you put it into play, and then at the beginning of your turn, you just take 2 off of it. So toss 3 of those in. That puts us to 44 cards. And then from there, it's just figuring out what that last card is going to be. There's no influence left, so it would have to be a neutral card or a criminal card. I was thinking of just tossing in the Express Delivery anyways, or maybe even tripling up on Emergency Shutdown would probably be a good idea, or Legwork actually. Yeah, I think a 3rd Legwork over Emergency Shutdown would be better, just to make sure that you do see it as much as you'd like. So we'll go with that, a 3rd Legwork over the Emergency Shutdown. And if you're from the cult of 46 and you like to play 46 cards, then by all means toss in that third emergency shutdown. I'll just tell you now, based on my experiences, obviously because you're criminal, your opponent's going to be sweating the account siphons, so HQ might get locked down. In that case, you want to lock R&D and dig it as much as possible to keep bumping back that HQ ice to open up for siphons. You also have the ability to sneak door beta into HQ. You are only going to get one access. However, if you do that, you can't get multiple accesses using sneak door unless you had HQ interfaces out, which are too expensive to throw into this deck, I think. So maybe sitting at 2 emergency shutdowns isn't too bad of an idea. So go ahead and save that deck. Where the heck do you name it? And we're gonna immediately test this out. Uh-oh. Can you not name decks on this thing? Try this again. It just says new runner deck. I don't know where to name it. I feel like they changed card game DB or Netrunner DB. Whatever. Go back. So I'm gonna save it and then put it into play immediately on Octagon. Octagon file. Android Netrunner. And Leela Central. Awesome. Alright, let's fire up Octagon and see how this one does. So going back to the deck list, you're going to want to focus on centrals because that's all you can really break. If you are feeling like you're not able to play that way, then by all means toss in a Crypsis and try to deal with it that way. Crypsis is pretty expensive, so you're really going to want to hit that early account siphon. You're really going to want to mulligan aggressively to get an account siphon. But for me, I found that really keeping pressure on a remote server or on remote servers isn't too difficult with this deck because of her ability. Even when you're playing against RP, I have had some pretty good success against RP. Probably gonna end up eating my words now. I bet the first person that I play with this deck is gonna be an RP player, and I'm just gonna make me eat my